Because as a designer, what I'm doing is I am communicating what my client does for their clients. I'm not just working with my client to make them look good, to have a pretty, beautiful website. That can be part of the work. But the real work is for them to create resonance with this person. Because then when I am aligned in what I offer, which is very, very niche, then my clients can feel that resonance and they go, yeah, that's it. That's what I want.
Welcome to Brilliance Unleashed with a series of Making Waves, the space where we go beneath the surface of leadership, creativity, transformation. I'm your host, Anna G, leadership coach, speaker, and a founder of Anna G Coaching and Brilliance Unleashed. Around here in that space, we don't talk about hustle, performance. We talk about what it really takes to live and lead from your own truth and to build impact that it's not forced, but felt. Today's guest embodies that philosophy beautifully. Nora Rose Zinnerman is a creative director and graphic designer with over 30 years of experience. Originally from Argentina and now based in the UK, Nora blends strategy, intuition, and artistry to craft brands and websites that feel alive. Her approach, what she calls soul brand alignment, is about translating someone's essence into design that mirrors who they truly are. Not easy process, not easy task to do, but she's doing it brilliantly. And many of her clients are transformational leaders, healers, and creators moving from that corporate careers into driven, purpose-led work. Nora has been called a website doula. Yes, you've heard me right. Because her process often feels like birthing experience. Her clients come out not only with a beautiful brand, but with clarity, confidence, and deep sense of being actually seen. And that's exactly what we will talk about today, the journey of being seen for who you are. Nora, welcome to Making Waves. I'm so happy that we are finally here.
So very happy to. Thank you, Anna, for having me.
And Nora, because there was quite of a introduction of you, but of course it doesn't truly describe of you as a human being. Is there anything that you would like to add to our audience and you would like them to know something about you as a human being?
Oh, well, I played walking football this morning, which makes me very, very excited. I am an absolute enthusiastic beginner, but it really, it really lights me up being outdoors, swimming in rivers. So yeah, as a human being, I can be quite enthusiastic, overly enthusiastic about things I like, including my work, which is one of my passions.
Yeah, I really love it. And it's like there is a lot of movement with what you love doing, right? So that is like that physical activity and just like moving within your body.
Yes, because we have a lot of clues in our bodies, and most of my work is about coming away from the mind towards the body.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you are really taking care of yourself first, just going from here to your body to feel, and then you can actually be the best version of yourself with your clients.
Yeah, it can get quite tangled up here.
Okay. So, Nora, because even though we do different things, we have things in common, and I think that it's something that came up through our conversations. Because in my work with leaders and entrepreneurs, I see that pattern all the time, that so many brilliant people are still kind of performing, still filtering themselves to fit in. And I'm guilty of that too, less and less, but still, and still kind of hiding behind a strategy or professionalism instead of showing up as who we truly are. And the real work of, I would say, visibility isn't about louder marketing or better positioning. It's about stripping away that performance and revealing the truth behind your work. And I think that's also when your presence help other people to bring not that persona, but that persona becoming to their brand. And you often describe your process as kind of midwifing, right? A brand into a being. And I really love that image because so much of what you do feels like holding space for someone becoming.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what makes this creative process such an emotional and even spiritual, I would say, experience for many of your clients?
Yeah, very good. Very good question. So a lot of my clients tend to be gifted in one way or another. And I would say 90% of them, they have worked in corporate before, if not most of them, in some form of job where they haven't been, say, fully expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff is kind of bubbling inside, yeah, the real gifts and the the stuff going on inside that is not coming out with the right words, with the right expression. So that gap between what's happening inside of them, especially for personal brands, and the articulation of that communication is where I come in, is the work we do, is that space in between. Because as a designer, what I'm doing is I am communicating what my client does for their clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these clients of them is really important in the equation. I'm not just working with my client to make them look good, to have a pretty, beautiful website. That can be part of the work. But the real work is for them to create resonance with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And that resonance happens when this client is truly aligned with their soul brand, because then it's effortless and then the magnetism happens. Yeah.
Mm. I really like the magnetism. I was really thinking about going from that marketing to magnetism, right?
Very good. Oh, I love that. Yes, it's exactly that. There
Mm-hmm.
is marketing, there is strategy, there are
Mm-hmm.
deadlines in what I do. I come from corporate, so I have been well educated in keeping tabs on things, in creating a good process for clients. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, when we are in that process, it becomes a little bit like expansion and contraction,
Mm-hmm.
expansion and contraction. And it's like it can be uncomfortable at times, it can be exciting and accelerating at other times, because clients, what they're doing is they are kind of peeling an onion,
Mm-hmm.
all these layers that have kept them stuffed down, in the expression. And when I talk about a brand, it's not that I need to come out with all of my, inner workings, you know what I mean? So I always give these examples, I totally adore apples, but there's no apples on my website. They don't really feature on my
Mm-hmm.
communication. What I'm doing is I am communicating what my clients will be resonating with.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when I am aligned in what I offer, which is very, very niche, then my clients can feel that resonance and they go, yeah, that's it. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More aligned one is with that essence, the easier everything it becomes.
Mm. That's what I wanted to ask. How often that there is there's less flow and more kind of restriction or friction, or even or even pulling back from the process, because it, as you said, it can be at times uncomfortable.
Yes, yes. But I'm good at sitting with the uncomfortable
Mhm.
with my clients. And
Mhm.
I'm not a coach, but I have trained in women's temple facilitation, and I have held many groups of women over the years. Not because I thought I would do this. This was more of a following spirit, really, being guided to do that. But that's another story. And I think in this culture, we're so accustomed to not want to sit with the uncomfortable, or we are very accustomed to just dig and dig and dig and create a bigger wound. So my work kind of sits in between.
Mhm.
Yes, we do not for everybody, but some people do find themselves a little bit that icky feeling. But then we do move on as well, because we've got a project at hand. We're gonna, put you out there in the online space. You're going to exist in the matrix of the online space, and it's going to be the version that you can, let's say, for no better word, cope with being at this point in time.
Yeah.
However, there is always evolution. So some
Mhm.
people go ahead and do new photos or change their websites 2 years later, 6 months later, 5 years later. It just depends how they evolve in their own process. So what I'm doing is, most of my clients, let's say, they have a vision of where they're going. So
Mhm.
they've got these kind of calling, yeah? And so the distance between where they are at now and where they're going, that's what I work. That we work in this space, but then we communicate that version that holds them to task. Yeah?
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
version there is the version that reminds them and keeps them in integrity.
Mm. I really love it. And when you said it, because it, as you said, also comes from your experience and background in corporate, so you're bringing together that corporate precision, and as you said, there is a goal, there's a project, there's an outcome,
Yes.
and that kind of depth of coaching or being, I would say, right? So it's like it's doing and being, and you brilliantly bringing that together. You're able to balance and to pull it, depends on what it's needed more at that moment.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's touch upon your own journey in that corporate world, because
Okay.
not much, but I think it's quite relevant to your story, right? To your because you spent decades in that corporate design world, when creativity was maybe often about the performance and perfection. So, what changed for you when you began merging more your spiritual, or that depth within your design work? How did that shift your understanding of what design really is?
Yes. Very good. So in the corporate world, I was a superb designer, and I offered really creative, I would say even nuanced, smart solutions to design problems, basically. And we were communicating and mostly selling products. I worked
Mm-hmm.
for a major corporation, and we were selling tons and tons and tons and tons of products. I also worked for smaller organizations and for other design studios, where again, there were deadlines, and there were, creative solutions to things that, say for an exhibition or for a brochure or for, a launch of a product. We had to resolve a lot of things with design. And design is an amazing tool. It's not artistic, because
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing to do with me. I'm following a brief. But in following those briefs, we had to use a lot of creativity. I was part of a team, so that's why I'm saying we. I suppose when I moved on to working with smaller business owners, they are personal brands usually. So I began to have more space to actually work directly with the client with, I'm going to call it the source of the work. Yeah. Because in a corporation, although each of the brands I worked for, they had, a personality, they had all sorts of characteristics that I followed. With a personal brand, say, I am the source of embodying a brand. I can teach my methodology to loads of other designers, but I still have to hold that frequency for them to be able to absorb it and learn it and transmit it. So for any personal brand, there's always one person that is the source of that work. And usually it's a body of work. Most of the people you work with, they don't just do ABC. They have usually a methodology, right? So most people that offer, that they are experienced in what they do, they've got a methodology. And that methodology is the holding that frequency. Yeah. So I suppose when I began to work, I had my own journey personally. Sorry, I diverted a little bit. I had my own personal journey where I was basically shown to follow a path which involved becoming a women's temple facilitator, which to me, it sounded absolutely nuts. It was like, what the...
Yeah, we can say it.
I was like, and I was having this conversation with my guides, telling them, I am a designer. This is like completely crazy. Stop this. And it was like, well, you got to go and follow these, blah, blah, blah. They were telling me, this is what you wanted to do all your life. And I was going, what? Anyway, I had absolutely no way of resisting because everything was showing in front of me as well as a path. And even words that I never uttered before, they were coming out of my mouth when I was facilitating. So it was like a very surreal, very, all-encompassing experience of doing this other work that I thought I need to be qualified for as well. So I went and went to a training in Greece, to become qualified, because I thought I can't just do these from a manual. And when I went, I realized that, oh my God, this is what people experience when they find their teacher, which I wasn't looking for either. Everything was really, really challenging. All my preconceptions about gurus, teachers. I was a consumer of spirituality, but I was not one of those people, and I definitely didn't dress like them. So it was all a bit challenging, yeah. Anyway.
Tell me, was that moment that you said, like, okay, so as you said, you were on the path, something is changing. Were you able to easily to allow yourself to, okay, let's go with the flow, or there was a lot of resistance from your side to just like, okay, I'm, as you said, that's nuts. I'm not going into that.
There was resistance in my head.
Okay.
But I couldn't avoid it because loads of women kept saying, oh, I want to join. Can I come? And it was like, sure. So I was doing it like for free as well, because I just couldn't think it was a thing that I was, it was just quite challenging in my, and I kept it completely separate as well. It was like two lives. But then at some point, I began to use some of those practices in the design process very early on with my clients at the very beginning. I began to do, it's like I adapted some of those concepts to meditations that I do with my clients now. And so all of that learning suddenly became alive in me. It was like, oh my God, oh my God. And the results I was seeing were like phenomenal, because I learned in that, women's temple facilitation, I learned to be present. Is a quality that we just so miss.
And I think you touched the essence, like being present and being also with your client within that process. I love that how those kind of duality, you're bringing it together. First, you brought it within yourself, and you kind of said, okay, I'm taking this, I'm taking that with me, and it's going to be my methodology, let's call it this way. And that's what you're doing now with your clients. And we've had many conversations, and there is like absolutely that presence of yours, that active listening, being truly curious about the other human being. I think that also enhanced the experience to be your client and bring the branding to life.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Wow, that's wow. And we're supposed to talk about branding, websites, design. And we are going, but I love it. But I really love it because that's exactly, I think that is your uniqueness, right? That's what you're bringing to your clients. And I've seen your work, and I've seen your clients, and those websites, those branding portfolios are absolutely describing who they are at that moment, as you said. But that's where they just like really, it's like, oh wow, you're landing on the page that you've designed, and you absolutely know what that person is doing, what that energy of that website is.
Yes.
And I really love that.
Yes. We not only go to the essence of the brand and I suppose the root of the work, we also use intentionality. And that's a really important word in my work. I help my clients create intentional photography, intentional body language, intentional wording. Everything is intentional. And whilst they do the work, because they are like, taking it like out from the hearts and the guts, they're becoming more self-expressed. They learn themselves how to articulate and express those details that really make up their brand, and that really help people feel their energy. Because when you go to a website, it really needs to be an experience. It really needs to be the atmosphere of what it's like to work with this person. It needs to feel, oh, this is what this person is like. Oh, this is what it would be like to work with this person. And it's good to attract the right people, and it's good to reject the people that are not aligned with the particular website, because then they're going to be served somewhere else much better.
Yeah, that's absolutely, it seems like that it's already like a first filter.
Yes.
In that online world. It's like, okay, is that my person or not? Am I digging deeper, or am I just staying away and looking somewhere else? But because you said about that whole process that you're going through with your clients, but I just wanted to understand a little bit more. How do you sense? How do you see that someone's essence, right? And how do you translate into that visuals?
Yes.
Is there any energetics or intuitive layer behind your design process? Because there is a process. So
Yeah.
how?
Well, yes, of course. I've always been very, very intuitive, and I've always been just good at picking up the unsaid, what's not being said. which in my case as a designer, is not my job to say it either. And this is even more subtle, is my job is to kind of help the client say it themselves without me prompting anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a collaboration, the work that I do, that is it's like we're planting a seed and then we plant another seed, and then I go like, oh, what if we do this seed? Oh yes, and then no, maybe no, not that seed. So we're kind of weaving. It's like a weaving together. And so what happens is they usually come with preconceived ideas. I like turquoise, or this is going to happen. But when they go inside themselves, first of all, and they do their own, unearthing, and, they do the meditations that are part of embodying your brand, they all come back and say, I never imagined this would come out, but this is what came out. Then they do the next layer, which is a little bit more practical. They start to plan the photo shoot. But because they had all of that experience of experiencing themselves, they're not going for the clothes that they thought they would either. And they start choosing clothes that are going to communicate. Say, for example, if a brand is, I don't know, let's say a brand is passionate and innovative, and also, let's say this brand is innovation and passion, and but yet the work they do is quite cookie. Yeah, they can be like completely like out there, and it's almost impossible to express it. So they begin to layer these qualities into how they are going to communicate. So how are they going to communicate that they're passionate, or that they are trustworthy, or that they are, even blingy? You know what I mean? Some clients are really blingy, and some of my clients are like really blingy and very out there and effusive and a little bit loud. So they move forward. Some others, they kind of lean back a lot more. So I'm just looking all the time as to how they are moving and behaving and what they're saying about themselves. And usually their story of how they came to do what they do is very important. Clues.
I'm curious. Now, when you were saying, have you had a client ever that you could see that they're not going for their essence, and they just gonna display some persona out there that they are not necessarily connected to?
Yes, of course, yes. The thing is, it is what they're ready to do. It's not for me to force anything. What they're ready to communicate, what they're ready to put out at this point in time is what they're ready to do.
But do you have the urge to at least tell them, or convince, or at least convey the message and say, hey, maybe there is something more there? Or you just...
Usually by the time I get to design the website, because this initial discovery process is a minimum 4 weeks. For clients that work one-to-one with me, it can be 6 weeks. So by the time I begin to design the website, they've usually worked it out themselves.
Okay.
I know people have 2 photo shoots, yeah. They realize somewhere along the line, and I was like, that's wrong, I got to do it again. So those are, the thing is, my clients can hold their own processes, right? Those are the clients I work with, clients that can hold the, uncomfortable moments, let's say. And yes, I may say, look, I want you to review this, or yes, I want you to, can you please try different clothes? Can we go for different colors? I'm not feeling this color palette of your clothes. Yes, I will, of course, art direct the whole thing. And I'm quite firm and quite frank. But I can't really think of an example, because what happens is, even if in the process they are kind of showing a few signs of not quite taking the leap, I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, what you're referring to, then eventually they do with their writing, or when they go to the photo shoot, they really excel. They just transform and they are completely the person that I was hoping they will be, but they were not showing the signs. So I haven't really done a website where I thought, oh my God, this is a disaster. I don't know. I haven't done that.
Mm-hmm. So it means that your website actually attracts the right people already, right? Because
Yes,
that's your
yes, very
essence.
much. Yes. Yeah, and
So
I don't wear the right spiritual clothes either, which is good.
that would be weird if I see you in one of those.
Well, it's interesting, right?
Okay, so we have, because my curiosity is right there, and I'm gonna explain why. Because many of my clients, coming from that corporate world, being those introverted leaders, sometimes they are afraid to be seen, right? They struggle with that visibility, this fear of being themselves, and there's certain grief of letting go of that identities and personas.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, mm, what do you notice? Because probably within your process when you're creating this design and websites, that notice happens when someone finally allows themselves to be
Mm,
fully visible, to be fully seen. And it's not that I will consciously holding, but that's what really been during the process.
yes. Well, it happens to even really experienced business owners.
Mm.
It happens. I'm also surprised myself when I see really, really experienced business owners, and I'm doing websites, say number 4. They've got a business running with lots of parts and a
Mhm.
shop and this, and there's moving parts and courses, and they suddenly go, "Holy moly! I didn't
Mhm.
expect this." So it happens to everybody. It's not just the people that are stepping into the online space for first time, or
Okay.
they have this fear of visibility. People that have been very visible and very
Mhm.
present in the out there with websites and with social media, they also experience these revelations, and they are the ones that tend to say, it's just so subtle, we can't even put a finger on it, but they feel it. And so I remember coaching, art directing a client about expressing her real, swag on the photos. Yeah. And so I'm just going to lean back a little bit. It was like I was saying, no, you're not posing like these. You're just like, it's like you just move your body to just like really take space. And, it's like,
Mm.
and then we were looking at other examples of people that have got that slight swag in her industry and she knew them, and we were imitating, just, think of so and so. And she was going, oh my God, you know, it's a whole conversation and collaboration about how to really, express yourself, and as I'm doing it, I'm opening my heart and I'm
Yeah.
using my hands, and it suddenly becomes, so you're not going to a photo shoot and trying to look panicked whilst
Mhm.
looking good, or a little bit stiff, or you don't know what to do, you know what I mean? So my work, for example, my brand is very much a little bit like leaning back but very confident. I am like very passionate, but there's a slight kind of mystery about it.
Mm.
So I'm a bit like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not swaggy and it's not like out there. It's more like, I'm ready to receive you when you're ready, kind of thing. That's my brand.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so you get there, right? You get eventually there, but it just takes time.
Funny when you were saying about those pictures, and I was like thinking, oh, about my own photo shoots. And the first one was like, it was still my kind of corporate persona translating. It's like, okay, that's what I kind of feel comfortable with. And then later on I was like, oh, but that's not necessarily me. That's just it okay, it looks nice, it's beautiful indoor, wonderful. But the next shooting, I was like, okay, I want to do it outside. I just don't want to be restricted by anything, because I'm an outdoor person. So, and I need that spaciousness, because when you said about that opening, this is like, yeah, I need space. I cannot be restricted anymore. So, but as you said, that's the process. It takes time, and it takes uh, vulnerability also to show ourselves, and also have that courage to go deep enough to say, okay, so who am I, and how am I going to translate it to attract the right people within my brand.
Yeah. I mean, I would add to that. It's not just who am I or who I am. It's more like, what is my soul work? What is my mission this lifetime? What am I here to offer? And how do people perceive me? That's really important, because when I read testimonials about my clients, they give me a lot of information about the work they do that they don't tell me sometimes. So the testimonials always give you a clue as well about your work. So when I read my own testimonials, that's when I realized, oh, people call me website doula. I would have never thought of using those words myself.
Yeah.
But I'm more comfortable with kind of midwifing. But that's their experience. And so what I'm doing is I'm communicating for those people that want that experience.
Yes. And I really thank you for that. This nailing it down is like not who we are, but what is that mission? What we are stand for? What it's more to that. It's not only about us, but our work and what we wanted to communicate to the world about our work. And your course, right? It goes embodying your brand.
Yes.
Speak so beautiful to that idea of that brand isn't something we create, it's something that we become.
Yes.
So if you could leave our listeners with one truth about embodying their brand and how you do it in your course, how like it's about showing up as the truest version of ourselves and also about our work, what would it be? What would you like to share?
Yeah, good question. When you embody your brand, you are rooted in the essence of the work that you do. It's not about being completely authentic or our true selves or, oh, I'm going to be myself now. It's more about aligning this thread of this thing that I do to the outer world and how I communicate and translate that. So embodying your brand is a very short course that condenses my methodology, that has a few meditations. It has really, really, really detailed questionnaires. I'm not saying they're long, they're short, but the questions are so accurately created so that people can really answer. They've got no option but to answer with honesty. And once all that material is there, they can really feel, oh, okay, my brand is about X, Y, Z. Like I said about myself, my brand is very much about leaning back, creating this container, this space for people to come and, put themselves in the online space with confidence.
Yeah.
And so I think if I'm leaving people with something is tune inside and really feel, if you do meditation. I've got a beautiful meditation which is basically meet your brand essence. So I'll leave the details with Anna.
Yes. So you will be able to find it, the link below.
Yes. And so it's about tuning in, and it's almost like I'm just doing this with my hands. I'm just moving the energy away from my head towards my body, where I can really tune into the frequency of the work I do. Not just who I am, the work I do. What do I bring to this world right now in this moment?
I'm already, like when you were saying, I'm just already going into the meditative.
Yeah, we can do a very short.
Yeah. Nora, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. And this conversation feels like, at the end, like it feels like homecoming. It's just not about that creativity. It's about that authenticity. But I know that this word has been just overused. But it's maybe let's go to that essence and just going from that marketing to that magnetism that we can create with our brand and attract the right people, work with right people, and being able to communicate not only who we are, but what we do and what our mission for today, for now, is.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, our dear listeners and our audience. All the details, so link to Nora's LinkedIn website and that meditation, you can find it in the section below the podcast, and also on YouTube. You can find it in the show notes. So thank you very much for being here, for listening. And yes, and if you wanted to bring your essence to the world, Nora is the right thing to put it nicely, pack it nicely for you to attract the right audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.